That's my American name. Zumila wabaga emachiapie. Santewa stena pechiusapie. I said to you in my language, which is the Lakota language, that my name in my common name is Little Wise One Who Makes a Mark, and I greet each and every one of you with a handshake from my heart. I happen to be the spokesperson for the 1894 Sioux Nation Treaty Council, and we reside in the middle of North America in what's called the Northern Great Plains of the United States. We have had a treaty with the United States. Our last treaty was in 1868. It was made at Fort Laramie in 1868. And in that treaty, there was a specific land area that was supposed to be set aside for our absolute and undisturbed use and occupation. Unfortunately, the Americans found gold within our sacred Black Hills, which is in the center of the land area of the 1868 treaty. And so they destroyed our economic base, which was the bison, the buffalo, the sacred buffalo. The buffalo provided us with food, clothing, shelter, and fuel in the wintertime for warmth. So when they destroyed our economic base, then many, many, many of our people, hundreds of thousands of our people, starved to death. The rest of us that were still alive, then they put on prisoner of war camps, which today they call American Indian reservations. I happen to come from POW Camp 344. That's also known as the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I am telling you all of these things because I know you come from Central and South America and also from the United States and Canada, so that you can realize that there are still some of us still alive. We did not become extinct. We are still here and we are still fighting for our own freedom and liberation. We have been going to the United Nations for almost 40 years, since 1982. The first spokesperson went for 20 years, and I am the second spokesperson to go there. What people don't know is that the Sioux Nation, who everybody calls us the Sioux Nation, we call ourselves the Ocheti Shakoi. The Ocheti Shakoi was made up of 7 subnations, and we were huge. We covered 24 American states and 4 Canadian provinces. That doesn't mean it's the same concept as the European concept of territory, because we all of us lived, all Indigenous nations, we all lived together with natural law. I happen to come from the largest, the largest nation, subnation that was to the west, and we were called the Tituan, the dwellers on the plains. We were also oftentimes called the Buffalo people, because we followed the buffalo in all their journeys all across the Great Plains. And they were our brothers. They were our older brothers. And we followed how they lived the same way. So that in there, if you watch a buffalo herd, the oldest female, usually it's the oldest female, will be the leader of the herd. And so for our people, in our Tioshpais and our villages, it was the older women who were the leaders of the people. And so the 1894 Sioux Nation Treaty Council came about at a time when, to talk about the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, the people would be killed. They would be put in jail, or they would be sent to an Indian insane asylum at Canton, South Dakota, where they would be cut out their brains with no anesthesia. If they talked about the treaty, if they spoke in our language, if they tried to conduct ceremonies, our spiritual ceremonies, this is what would happen to them. So in the 1940s and 1950s, when my grandmother was teaching me all of these things, and especially about the treaty, she could have been arrested. She could have been killed. I probably would have been arrested and killed too, because the United States did not want any of our people to know that there was an agreement made between two nations, an international agreement, the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868, between the Great Sioux Nation and the United States. And that's what we are taking now to the United Nations. We have brought it to the Organization of American States. We keep bringing it up because we want our freedom, we want our liberation, and we want our territory back so we can live there, as it says in the treaty, for our absolute and undisturbed use and occupation. We have many of our people have been brainwashed. They call it colonizing, many of our people, but I always count on our genetic memory. All of us, no matter where we come from, if we are Indigenous and we have been colonized, we must remember we still have that genetic memory inside of who we are, who we really are. And I pray every day for all of us that we can have good health according to the way the Creator made us to be. Wopila tanka. My deepest gratitude for listening to me. Thank you.
Charmaine, can you hear us now?
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Charmaine, listen. We're going to ask you, please speak slower. We're doing translation as you speak. So we got the message. It was kind of fast. So if you want to just come back, and we're now live with you, if you want to come back and repeat anything you think needs to be emphasized, and we're going to pick it up from there. If I would ask you one thing, Maria Luna is here, and this communication is being broadcast extensively. The extension is north to south, east to west. The winds of the wings, the winds of the wings, the winds of the wings, of the Kunduranka, the condor eagle, the eagle condor. That's the transmission. That's the transmission. That's the mission. So from there, I would ask you to start out again, and explain to us here now, why did you convene in Rapid City, that gathering that we had? When was it, in March?
December.
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 Please give us that part of the story, what happened in December when you convened at the Continental in the territory of the Titawan of the Ocheta Sakuwa. Give us that part of it, but talk slow.
Thank you, Tupac. Can you hear me? So I don't, can you hear me? Oh, good. Thank you.
Very good, very clear. Slow though.
I will. I got nervous when they were filming me. And I kept thinking I'm going to talk too long. And I forgot to talk slow. So I will try to remember and do my best today. I am Oglala Tituan Ocheti Shakoi. That means I'm from the Oglala band of the Tituan subnation of the 7 council fires, 7 nations. And we are called by the Americans the Great Sioux Nation. We never called ourselves Sioux, but they did. Okay. We also, our people, the Great Sioux Nation, speak 3 dialects of the same language. the Dakota. So you have North and South Dakota, Nakota with the N, Nakota, and Lakota with the L. And the only ones that speak with the L are us. We call ourselves Tituan. Lakota also means it's a language, but it also means allies. And so we have, but people misinterpret that. And so they call us Lakota. We are Tituan. We speak the Lakota language. My name in our language is Zumila Wobaga. It means a little wise one who makes a mark. And I happen to be a writer. They have told me since I was a little girl, I look exactly how our people looked before the invasion. We call it the invasion when the Europeans and the Americans and the United States all came in. And for us, it's not that long ago because we are in the middle of the United States in South Dakota, an illegal state. It's called South Dakota. Okay. The western half of South Dakota was supposed to be for our absolute and undisturbed use and occupation. That is one of the articles in the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. But when they found gold in our sacred Black Hills, then the invasion started. Started more from the east, the invasion. And they violated the treaty and they put us in prisoner of war camps, which today they call reservations. Okay. So I come from POW camp 344. If you look on a map of South Dakota, it will say Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And what they did to the Tituan, to us, the last ones fighting them, we were in 7 bands, but we were all together. And so they put us, the Hunkpapas, up here, the 4 Minikoju, Sanzark, Iteshicha, Ohunepa, in Cheyenne River Reservation. And down here, over here, they put the Brule. And down here, they put the Sichangu. And they were trying to put us right here, the Oglalas. I gotta slow down. Next to the Missouri River. But we said no. And we fought because our purpose Our sacred purpose, Oglala's, is to protect the sacred Black Hills.
Proteger las lomas negras sagradas.
And that's where the gold was.
Y eso es donde estuvo el oro.
And so then they put us
Entonces,
where they thought was really bad. They called the Badlands,
se llaman las tierras malas.
just about 10, 15 miles away from the Black Hills.
Más allá de las lomas negras.
So we could see it
Para que
originally, but we couldn't go over there.
poder verlo, pero no entrar. Pero no entrarla.
But one of the things they could never take away from us,
Cosas que nunca nos podrían quitar.
and they could never take away from any of you,
No se puede quitar tampoco de ustedes.
is your spirituality
Su espiritualidad.
and your ability to pray.
Capacidad de orar.
And they didn't know
Ellos no supieron.
that all of our ancestors
Todos nuestros
who they killed with starvation and disease
uno y enfermedad
are invisible,
son invencibles,
but they're still helping all of us.
pero nos están ayudando aún.
And so now today,
Entonces, hoy en día,
I still live within our treaty territory that they agreed to,
yo,
but I don't live
como hizo en el territorio
in a POW camp.
donde ellos demarcaron, pero yo no vivo
I live right on the edge of the Black Hills,
vivo a la orilla.
and I can go in there and pray. Or even where I'm at, I can pray. Because what they didn't know
También lo que no supieron ellos
was the influence of sacredness extends way further
el grado es
than just the physical boundary.
solo la orilla o la barrera física.
And so we can pray wherever we are at
Y podemos orar donde estamos,
for help in getting our territory back
para ya retomar
and being able to live again how the Creator made us to be. Okay. We have been going to the United Nations since 1982. We are so small in numbers that we probably, if they gathered all of us together from all over the world, that maybe there would be maybe 100,000 of us left. And of that 100,000, how many know are not brainwashed? So they know who they are, about the 68 treaty, and that we need to keep on being who the Creator made us to be. Okay. The reason we have to go to the UN is because we fight the world's biggest enemy. The United States. And that's how I was raised, to know the United States has always been our enemy. Their values are different, their understanding of the creator and all the spirits and everything is different.
son diferentes.
And their lifestyle,
Y su estilo de vida,
which has been imposed upon all of us, indigenous,
todos nosotros, los pueblos indígenas,
is causing the destruction of our grandmother
de nuestra abuela,
and Mother the Earth. So we go to the United Nations because we know we are so small,
tan pequeños.
but we also have all of our invisible ancestors with us.
Tenemos todos nuestros ancestros invisibles con nosotros.
And when we go, we say, no matter what we do, in my writing, in everything I do, we let the Spirit lead. And so in all of my writing and in everything I still do today, it is still let the Spirit lead. And now this year, after going to the UN for 40 years, 2 UN bodies have put our message on their websites. Okay? 40 years, they never pay attention, they ignore us. And now, when we're coming in the last days of Mother Earth, they are starting to listen. And 2 of our things, one of our interventions is on the advisory committee to the Human Rights Council website. And you can go there and you can read it. And it's from the 1894 Sioux Nation Treaty Council. Okay. It has 3 examples of how they should not try to do what they call new technology. But it has also a message that Indigenous have been trying to give them for 77 years. About what their technology will do to the earth or is doing. And whatever harm or pain or destruction they do to the earth happens to all of us. The second message we gave to them, which now is on the 3rd website, is about decolonization. And so you could read that on the 3rd website too. De-brainwashing. We should call it de-brainwashing instead of decolonization. That would make more sense to our people who are so brainwashed. when Tupac told me, asked me to make that little 5-minute video,
me pidió hacer ese video de 5 minutos.
there was a message I forgot to put in there. My message is this.
Mi mensaje es este.
I want to say thank you to the OAS. Thank you to all of those leaders in the colonizing nation states for having their meeting in Los Angeles. Because if they didn't do this, we would not be here together like we are. So I thank them for that. And then the second thing, I want to thank all of you organizers who put this together with the Zoom. I want to thank you so much for doing this. And we should do this at least once a year. All of us get together and talk like this once a year. Years ago, I met this young man from Panama, Indigenous man, young man, Indigenous. Could be my grandson. And we were both looking at each other like that with our eyes. Because I thought his people were all gone. And he thought my people were all gone, my nation. And we're not. And so I am so thankful to all of you who are listening and who are at that meeting and who are doing this thing. Thank you. So then we all know we are still all here. Even though some of us are just a small number, we are still here. And we can all pray for each other. Now, do you have any more questions?
Charmaine, the butterfly song and the December meeting in Rapid City. Please give us the report. Why did you call that meeting and what happened there?
In December 21st, during the winter solstice, we called a meeting here in Rapid City, where we always do our 1894 treaty meetings, because we are right on the edge of the sacred Black Hills. And where we have our meetings is on top of a sacred mountain. They don't know that, but it is a little tiny sacred mountain. Because in October, the Human Rights Council at the United Nations passed resolution 48/7.
Charmaine,
Yes,
what was the number of that resolution again that the Human Rights Council passed? What was the name of it?
I forget the name.
The
I can get it, but it's 48/7.
The legacies of colonialism?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
48, what? 48/7?
Mm-hmm.
48/7. Okay, thank you.
On October 8th. But what about that resolution opened the door so that we can go to the Decolonization Committee. We can be on the list for decolonization. So it was a very, very important resolution.
Una resolución muy, muy importante.
We have been trying to get
Hemos
on the list for decolonization
de estar en esta lista para descolonización
for more than 20 years,
por 20 años.
and we were always blocked.
Siempre fuéramos bloqueados.
And it was the United States who blocked us from being on that list. China
China
is the one who introduced the resolution.
es la nación que introdujo la resolución.
And so when we first heard about it, we sent a thank you letter to them and to all of the other nation states who backed them up.
Estados que nos respaldó.
And then the December meeting was called so we could inform more and more people, indigenous people,
Pueblos indígenas
that now
que ahora
the door is cracked open
la puerta de apenas
and we need to push in there
necesitamos empujar esa puerta.
as much as we can. And during that meeting, then we had not just us, but we also had Zoom like this.
Tenemos
And so we had from Canada,
Canadá,
Tupac brought Juan and Manuel there. He brought others, Rigoberto there to the meeting. And so we were having more people learn about this resolution, Human Rights Council Resolution 48-7,
la resolución de
and where it opens up the Decolonization Committee to indigenous peoples.
pueblos indígenas.
And for a nation like ours, which is so small,
Para una nación como nuestra que es tan pequeña,
then we need something like this
necesitamos
to, because we fight the biggest bully, we fight the biggest enemy. So we need help from all the other nation states,
apoyo de los demás,
whether it is China, whether it is Venezuela,
China,
whether it is Cuba,
es Cuba,
whether it is Guatemala,
es Guatemala,
whether it is Mexico, whichever nation state, Japan maybe, Korea maybe, North Korea maybe, whatever nation state will help us. We are too small. So we have to have the help from the family of nations.
las familias de las naciones.
We are a nation.
Somos una nación,
We are not wards of the government.
no somos
We are a much ancient, more civilized nation
nación más
than all of them put together in the United Nations.
de todos los gobiernos de los Estados Unidos.
And they could learn so much from us.
Ellos podrían aprender tanto de nosotros.
And that means all of you too.
Porque
You come from ancient nations who are older.
las necesidades de los ancestros que son,
We are the elders
somos
in the family of nations.
de edad
We are the elder nations. The indigenous nations are the elder nations.
las naciones con más tiempo.
All of those nations in the UN,
Todas las naciones que están en las Naciones Unidas
they're like toddlers.
son como niños chiquitos,
They're like little tiny toddlers,
son como niños muy chiquitos.
and they fight
Y pelean
and they throw fits
y tienen
and they're greedy and they want this and this and this,
lo que quieren esto, quieren otra cosa,
but they're not elders.
pero no son
And so they can't think for the good of the whole.
para los bienestar de todos.
And as long as they suppress us,
Y
and as long as they continue, then these are the last days of Mother Earth. Because when we all disappear, We are her children. We know how to live with her. Then, no. So I'm very thankful to Tupac for asking me that. I forget, I'm old. I forget. I'm 75 and I forget.
Charmaine, may I make a comment and then we're gonna move on with the agenda. We'd like you to stay on the line.
Mhm.
We're gonna go into a conversation now, but I would like to make a comment and ask those of us who are here to also make an acknowledgement. From what we understand, you mentioned the United Nations. The United Nations has a criteria for membership. It's a club, it's an international club, like a clubhouse, but a big one. To be a member of that club, you have to be a state. You have to have a government. You have to have a population. It seems like you also have to have an army and a border. But that's not us. So we understand, okay, you guys are the states, but we are nations. We are the original nations of Mother Earth. We were the original nations of Mother Earth before you got here. Before you got here, we'll be the original nations of Mother Earth when you're gone. But now, in that club, they identify their concept of territory and integrity of territory. It's even in the version of the Declaration that they adopted at the last moment, or after they changed it. They say the United Nations system is tied to the idea of the territorial integrity of the states. But they don't even live up to that, because look what Russia did in Abya, look what they're doing in Ukraine. In other words, the system itself is broken. It doesn't even make sense with itself. As a matter of fact, it's always been broken. When it got here, it was broken already, because it didn't have the simple law of respect. Respect for life, respect for each other, respect for their own women. I mean, how can you build up civilization if you don't respect your own women, right? But this is the history. I say this now because this encounter of the original nations, the Abya Yala nations, of the Great Turtle Island of the Abya Yala, we have an idea of territory too. But it's not that one, right? Like you said in the beginning. We understand that Mother Earth has an integrity of territory that ties it with the cosmos. And for that reason, we do what we do when we do it. And that's why we're doing this now. So just to acknowledge it, so you can communicate it with the 1894 Sioux Nation Treaty Council and the Osheta Sokuan. We recognize that it is the Osheta Sokuan, the 1894 Treaty Council, as the international diplomatic representation of the Osheta Sokuan, that holds the responsibility and in their heart. What is the Black Hills? What is the territory of the 1868 treaty? The title to that territory is in your hands. If you go to the UN Decolonization Committee, or if you go to the OAS, or if you go to Geneva to search wherever you go, you don't have to go there to know that. You know that from right here, because this is international too. There's many nations here. This is international. This is our United Nations. Except we gather around the sacred, the prayers, the fire, the water, the wind, the earth. So please communicate that to the Tetuan and to the 1894 and to the Oasis of Cuba. We recognize your title to the territory without any breaks. There's never been an interruption of that recognition. Whatever they say or don't say, whatever they do or don't do, you have international recognition for being the guardians of the Wahasapa and all of the territories that envelop your sacred way of life. So please communicate that. And if you don't mind, we can catch up a little bit with our agenda. We're going to ask a relative here from the NASA Nation down there by Colombia to move us into the next part of the conversation. But please stay online. And we'll follow up as questions come up. It's going to be from now to, we got about 45 minutes to have a conversation about what does this mean now? We're going to ask Vicente Otero of the NASA Nation to guide us through the next part of this conversation.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias.